There was one genre that introduced new production stuff more than any other. That genre is, of course, kids' TV. And when I say kids' TV, I mean kids' TV with an in-vision host.
Instead of wanting to send you to sleep for one night, this sandman wants to send us to sleep for 500 years. Oh dear, what are we going to do? I think we ought to call the Ghostbusters. Hello? Hello, yes. Ghostbusters, please.
Not the likes of Bob the Builder. The list of presenters who came from these types of shows is too long for me to list them all. Whether it be kids' TV like the Broom Cupboard.
Ah, what a shame to see the end of the Bartons, eh? Top Australia. You'd like to go to Australia, yeah. It's a shame you don't know any Australian people, Ed, really.
Andy. Hi.
Oh, Kylie Minogue, what a surprise. What is this you brought?
This is for Ed. It's just a little letter that I wrote.
A little letter that you wrote, Ed. Sorry, Kylie. Dear Ed, I would like to invite you to Melbourne, Australia for a holiday with me.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah?
The rest of them TV.
No, she's using the sly female Pokemon of Crybaby just to make me look bad, so I'll have to apologise.
I'm actually using pretend Crybaby just to trick and observe. Oh, is it a lassie? I'll never have kids now!
Missy, no, look, I apologise. Have a free shot, have a free shot. That was right in my teeth. I need a crown. I defend myself with the ultimate girly Pokemon. I choose Brian.
Or youth TV like T4 and The Big Breakfast.
That's it for today.
Oh, what?
I know. For legal reasons, Channel 4 aren't allowed to give us any more airtime.
Oh, no.
Well, basically, we'd run into next Sunday.
Met a girl, she looked cute. She was a girl who played the flute, yeah. Toot toot. She played the flute. What a hoot. Said that she could be my girl. She could fill my whole wide world, yeah. Toot toot. She played the flute.
This genre of TV helped a lot of young people stay entertained. It's fallen out of favour over the last 15 years or so, as kids now consume most of their content online. It's a massive shame to see the downfall of this genre, because so many very well-established talents started out in these genres. With this genre not existing anymore, there's no platforms for new presenters or indeed new production staff to make a name for themselves, because current TV executives are very unlikely to plonk an unknown on a show in the current climate, where they're very risk-averse. But when you look back to the 80s and 90s, they were giving new talents a go left, right and centre. There used to be something of a hierarchy for presenters. First they'd start out in kids TV, then when the noughties came along, they might be bumped up to a spin-off show of a reality programme, and after that is when they get bumped up to the mainstream. Kids TV is dying out. These spin-off shows themselves are dying out. When two of those first three steps are no longer around, it means it's much more difficult to work your way in. If you kill off certain genres, then you decrease the amount of opportunities that are available for production staff. The first person I interviewed for the children's TV section is former CBBC presenter Ed Petrie.
No. Monsieur Pamplemousse is a French chef. No, yeah, you must have got confused. We both have moustaches. Okay, bye. Oh, what a mix-up. What's that?
Oh, yeah,
That is not a picture of me.
What? It is.
That is a picture of Adolf Hitler.
What?
You can't put a picture of Adolf Hitler on children's television, especially not BAFTA award-winning Children's Channel of the Year.
Oh.
You're saying that I look like one of the world's biggest murderers.
So, in the streaming era that we're in currently, do you think traditional TV still has value for kids?
Yes, is my short answer.
Yeah.
And my longer answer is there's still a surprising amount of people like out in the countryside who have rubbish broadband and stuff.
Yeah.
So you need to reach those people. I think TV and vision entertainment is all about trying to get on as many platforms as possible now. In the medium to long term, maybe TV and internet will all just morph into one.
Well, a few months ago, they announced that CBBC, they're getting rid of the channel, aren't they, and moving it online.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It seemed a little bit early to me, but then I know they've got to save loads of money, and I'm just somebody who used to get custard pies thrown in their face. So I'm sure there's people who are much better there, know about all the technical sides of it more than I do. But then I remember BBC Three going online and then back. So sometimes it can just be down to one person's opinion. At the end of the day, someone's got to make a decision about how the money's spent. So somebody else might have made a different decision. 15 years ago, I was chatting to Dick and Dom, and Dom's kids just flat out refused to watch any CBBC at all. And that was 15 years ago. And, tons and tons of kids were still watching it then. So, maybe he was just didn't want to watch anything that was to do with his dad, which is quite a normal thing that kids do. So I wouldn't, it's highly unscientific for me to look at my own children and think that their viewing in any way reflects other people's.
Stuff like News Round Blue Pizza, they probably wouldn't work on Netflix, Disney Plus, that sort of thing, because they're not really designed to binge watch loads of them.
No, like News Round comes and it goes. You have an imperative to watch it live because, or on the day, because obviously it's out of date, isn't it? It's the news. Kids get quite excited about the Red Nose Day and stuff. Still, the general consensus is that it's all about getting your best shot at getting people to watch TV these days is for it to be some form of live event. One of my bugbears when I was at CBBC was because you work in children's, you get treated like children. We tried to get Ed and Oucho to do stuff with children in need, and literally all they did, I think they sent us some headbands, Pugsy headbands to put on, and that was it.
How do you think new people can get this, that new presenters? Because there's not really a lot of hosted programs now, whereas there used to be quite a lot of them.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there was one called Why Don't You?
Yeah.
And then when I was working at CBBC, there was Friday Download. I'm not quite across all the CBBC content as much as I used to be, so I don't know what the state of play is now.
When you look at, Ant and Dec, Stephen Mulhert, Philip Schofield, they all started out in kids' TV.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's probably a little bit harder to make that leap now because the competition is fiercer, because there are so many more people who are comfortable on camera. Not that it can't be done. Ian Sterling is getting lots of work at ITV at the moment. I got an agent when I was up at the Edinburgh Festival and got a casting and ended up on Nickelodeon.
What was the difference in Nickelodeon and CBBC?
Nickelodeon, pretty much the only thing they cared about was, is it making money? Whereas when I went to CBBC, they've got the BBC values, and so they're much less concerned about the bottom line, and they're more concerned about, are they providing engaging content.
Which of the two did you prefer working at then, Nickelodeon or CBBC?
Well, Nickelodeon was a lot of fun, and it was my first live TV job, so that was very exciting, and it felt quite glamorous. Whereas when I got to CBBC, it felt a lot more worthy, like I felt good in myself. I felt like I was providing something more quality, and I was more, and I was involved in the writing of it. And at Nickelodeon, I was because they were trying to save as much money as possible. They just get us in to present on the day, and that was it. Whereas at CBBC, I was able to be in the writing meetings and all that sort of stuff. So I had much more personal input into it all.
One person who's very frustrated with the lack of children's TV at the moment is legendary presenter Johnny Ball. The audio didn't record for Johnny, so I'll narrate his comments with what he said. He thinks the BBC used to have the best children's TV department in the world, and now it's producing very little children's content. He believes the reason may be because kids are more interested in their phones now, but also believes the content should be available for those who are interested in it. His theory is, if the BBC don't provide the content, of course people aren't going to watch. He recalls an episode of Blue Peter that recorded a grand total of 0 viewers. He thinks the reason for this is because parents only put children's TV on when their children are under the age of 5, and after that, these children discover other areas of technology and cease to be interested in television. Johnny says the key to producing educational content for kids is not to be preachy. He thinks children are more intelligent than people realise, and he explains things to children in the same way he'd explain them to adults. He said once the children are aware that they're being lectured, that turns them away. And the best way to educate kids is for them not to be conscious of the fact that you're educating them. If they realise that a program's just a learning device rather than entertainment, that'll turn them away and the production staff aren't doing their jobs properly. Kids prefer subtlety rather than a lecture. Another person I interviewed was CBBC's presenter of Deadly 60, Steve Backshall, to see what he thinks of this current streaming focus.
Hi Christy, Steve Backshall here. Current cuts to children's TV are inevitable because there are overall cuts to the whole of the BBC, particularly with the licence fee agreement as it is. There have been huge cuts across the board, so it's inevitable that will happen in CBBC as well. Moving online is something that they were planning on doing anyway. It's been in the pipeline for a long time, and I think that is more to do with the fact that kids don't watch television in the linear fashion anymore. Almost all of their viewership is currently on the iPlayer anyway, and the expense of running a channel where you have to maintain content throughout the day when your main audience just isn't watching television that way was probably never gonna be sustainable. So it's kind of inevitable that it would go that way. I think there are definitely more opportunities for live event television. It doesn't have to be done in the way that it kind of is on the BBC at the moment, where these are massive events that cost enormous, stratospheric amounts of money and are completely overwhelming. And I wish that we could do more live streaming stuff, particularly in my kind of field, really, in wildlife, because the technology is absolutely out there. It doesn't have to be done for millions of pounds, and I think that we could/should be doing far more. You can make completely straight factual programming, but it's going to feel like being at school for them, and you'll probably only end up speaking to the kids who already feel like that's their thing. Do I think that linear TV still has a place in educating and entertaining kids? I would love to think so, because that's been my entire history and my entire life. But I do have to recognise that actually the majority of kids that are turning up to my live shows now, it's because they've seen my clips on YouTube rather than because they've been tuning in with an appointment to view Deadly 60 or something else at a specified time. And we have to think an enormous amount about how we transmit TX programs, just based on how they're going to be consumed. Do you put a whole series smash on iPlayer all in one go because people are used to watching one program and then going straight into the other and binge watching, and that's how people function? And television still hasn't made up its mind about that. There's the new series that I've got coming out now. The commissioners just can't decide whether they're going to release a show a week, as we always have done in the past, or whether the whole lot will get slammed down in one go, because we don't really know which thing is best. We had a massive period of time through kind of Series 1, Series 2, when Deadly went absolutely bananas. And that was, I think, down to the fact that it was transmitting in the afternoon on BBC One. So our kind of linear broadcast figures were insane by modern standards. We were being seen by millions of people. And when we did live shows, for example, you'd have 14,000 people turn up to see a live show. And now it's radically less than that. And a lot of that is down to the fact that, now a program that goes out on CBBC's digital channel might TX to 40,000 people. It's a whole different ball game. And, you know, a lot of that is to do with the change in the way television's going. Overall, audience numbers across the board are much, much lower now, because there's so much more choice. There's so many other channels, so many places to go to, and so few people are watching television in that old-fashioned style. There were no streaming platforms when we started, and now you could be on any one of 20, couldn't you? So the audience is massively dissipated. Clearly, you're very smart. You've asked some really, really good questions, and the very, very best of luck to you, and the very, very best of luck with your research.
In conclusion, whilst I would tend to agree with Johnny and Ed a little bit more for nostalgic reasons, I also understand where Steve is coming from about kids not watching traditional television anymore. So I do understand why they don't put much of an effort into it anymore, but I do think they should at least produce some content, because, as Johnny said, if you don't produce the content, of course people aren't going to tune in. And I personally think there should always be a place for children's TV on linear television, and I'm glad that many people have positive memories of watching children's television on linear TV.